I tried, guys. I really tried. Frankenstein's monster, Don Martin style. Those hands, oh my goodness. I didn't know how to do it. But, hey, I don't know. It looks kind of cool, right? It was a fun sketch.
Donkey Jaw Projects!
So what is up, party people? This is day 100. This is day 84 of 100 days of making comics. And today, I did my comics. It's about 45 minutes of writing for this new story that I still don't have much of a name for, but I have character names. One of them being the main character's name is what is it? Gwenzel Tensel. And her sidekick friend is Ace Nog Space Dog. And hey, the intro might give you a hint of where I'm getting this influence from. Don Martin had interesting names for his characters, and I'm swiping it. I'm also gonna probably swipe some of his onomatopoeia. Have you guys ever heard that word? Apparently it means like when people make words that are spelled out as the sound that whatever that thing is makes, I guess. And he was the master of onomatopoeia. And you obviously, it's, you know, being in comics, it's what we call sound effects, basically. There's probably more to that definition. I think it doesn't have to only be comics and whatnot, but so there's that. I'm really having fun just like swiping things from all my favorite cartoon influences and injecting it some way, somehow into my story. My favorite Dr. Seuss book is a big influence of this story. It is the Butter Battle Book, if you ever heard of that. It's not a very popular one. A lot of people don't know about that book. But there's actually an animated version done by Ralph Bakshi, and you can check it out on YouTube for Friezels. So, yeah, there's that, and it's really cool, and it's about war. It's about a war over, or a dispute, the arms race, I guess. But it's a dispute between countries or whatever over the disagreement of which side of the bread toast to butter. So it's the Butter Battle Book. And so this is, you know, this whole story is about a civil war. Well, it's not about a civil war. It takes place during a civil war of a certain planet, the Vlag planet, where the Vlagans live. And like the Earthlings. And so, you know, I'm just having fun, like coming up with names and coming up with how the story's gonna end up. And Gwenzel Tensel she's been orphaned because of a certain situation, and she's taken in by her uncle, Pritch Galdrich. And he's kind of he's a man, he's a Vlag of few words, and probably the first line he'll say in the comic is how's it go? No shame, name remain. That's what he'll say to his orphaned niece, Gwenzel. I gotta get these names straight. It'll be fun, like, to write this, and I want to write it like almost in a lyrical fashion. It's gonna be like, it's gonna seem like it's like as bleak as possible, but as bleak as possible in the world of safe animation world, sort of. But I mean, cartoon violence, there's some crazy stuff that happens, but nobody ever like really dies, type of thing. But this girl is orphaned, so her parents go to the what they get what is it? They get I can't remember all the terminology. I came up with so much terminology with this. It's so fun. But instead of like hell, or like, I shouldn't say hell, but like the underworld, or where you go when you die, because heaven, hell. I'm not trying to make a statement with that. But instead of hell, it's the what is it? The underarm bounce house. the great depths of the underarm bounce house. So I don't know, I'm just having too much fun here. So anyways, I'm coming up with stuff. It's fun, and I'm just going to keep writing and writing, and it's going to be awesome to illustrate this, because I'm going to use like every possible like animation trope I can think of, especially from early animations, and it's just going to be a fun comic. So it's going to be fun, but it has a very serious message, a very like, I mean, it's a war, but it's fun at the same time. It's going to be a weird mix, and hopefully you guys dig it. That being said, I was talking to my friend today, Teresa, I don't know her last name very well. I should, because it's like a name, like a Spanish name, or I'm sorry, Teresa, if I'm messing this up. But like, I don't know how to do the name. Sorry. But Teresa, she's probably your friend as well if you're in the 100 Days of Making Comics. Our mutual friends. She's been involved with the 100 Days. And so I was talking to her about in the Hangouts about this thing that I've always been fighting, like my style or whatever, like, and I think I'm coming to a conclusion where my style, I think I'm gonna move forward in a more cartoony style. And I was gonna like write this whole big pros and cons thing and kind of display it that way, but I only have so much time in the day, so I might still do that, but right now I'm just kind of saying it as it comes. But basically, this whole thing between a cartoony style and a more realistic style, I guess. And she told me something that I thought was interesting, and I wrote it down. And basically, I mean, I'm not going to quote it exactly because I was trying to figure it out too, like how to say it in my own way, I guess. But like a cartoony style conveys ideas and concepts better and expressions better to a certain degree. Like, you can really exaggerate expressing things in an exaggerated way, should say. So you can like create like symbols and really drive home certain things. So that's like a cartoony style, more simplified cartoony style based more on shapes than anything. And a more realistic style, like something like Bernie Wrightson or something, you can get subtle nuances, and you can kind of get a little bit deeper shades of meaning with that. And I mean, these aren't like hard and fast rules. I think you can get both effects with both styles, but I just thought that was an interesting distinction, and it's something I'm going to be thinking about. That being said, I feel like I've been like fighting. Like, it's funny that I said the other day or yesterday that I don't really work in a cartoony or I've kind of coming back to a cartoony style, because probably almost anything you guys have seen from me has been a more cartoony style. And it's like when I make an illustration and then it ends up being cartoony, just for the simple fact that doing something more detailed is from imagination has been difficult for me. And I grew up, on the Image Comics artists, especially McFarlane, with the crazy details, but, Liefeld, Jim Lee, Will Spertasio, Sam Keith, all those guys, Eric Larson. And they always had a lot of, like, cross-hatching and stuff, and they pushed, it was kind of that superhero, sometimes realism, but also exaggerated. But I don't think I would ever think of, call their styles cartoony. They were more hitting that, the more realism side of comics, I guess. I mean, not as much obviously as like Bernie Wrightson, except for like maybe Sam Keith and McFarlane. But some of them were more cartoony or whatever. So whatever. But I think you know what I mean, right? Stuff that seems to represent the actual form of a human or of whatever it is more than, say, Donald Duck and, the Looney Tunes and Disney and stuff like that, where and it's hard to say, it's a more simplified cartoony style. I mean, Disney, think of it like the animals are cartoony, but then the humans are representational, but they're cartoony. They had big eyes and stuff. And so anyways, I think you get what I mean. And it's just interesting. Like, I always felt like I didn't want to make, like, I always tried to push myself away from Disney style art, even though I'm a big fan of Disney movies and stuff. Like, the Little Mermaid was like my favorite thing forever when I was a kid, and then Aladdin was my favorite thing after that, once that came out. And I loved all the Disney animations, but those were like my two favorite. And growing up, The Emperor's New Groove, which I think that's DreamWorks or something. That's like one of my favorite movies still. Prince of Egypt is an amazing movie. So anyways, I like cartoony stuff, but I didn't want to draw like any of that. When I did draw cartoony, I was more like, I would kind of lean way more towards, Von Bode was a big one, or Von Bode, and like kind of an underground cartoony, an outsider art cartoony style, or especially like a graffiti style cartoony where things were like highly exaggerated. Some of the forms were kind of messed up a lot of times, especially with graffiti. Like it's kind of all over the place type of thing. I don't know really how to describe the style, but if I was going to do something, I wanted it to be more like edgy, like those things, I guess, and not like fun and happy and safe, like, Disney, or even stuff like He-Man and stuff. Even though I love those cartoons, I didn't want it to be super clean like that. So, and I always thought of like people like Bill Watterson to, Calvin and Hobbes, to kind of have a cool mix between the two, like a little bit more realistic and sketchy. I like a sketchy line. I don't know if I'm going to do sketchy lines or not. We'll see. I think that what I'm doing lately reminds me a little bit more of like Chris McQuinlan style. Especially with the character designs I'm doing. But I don't want to look like him either. I love his stuff, but I don't want to ape him, I want to do my own thing. I definitely want it to feel like it's old, 20s and 30s cartoons. That's the predominant look I'm trying to get. But, I'm also really, inspired by a lot of things. So anyways, the thing is with a cartoony style is like, I'm just, one of the pros to it and why I'm leaning towards maybe going full cartoon. You never go full cartoon. But I'm going close to full cartoon. And, you know, so one of the reasons is because I'm just having a blast with it. Like, I'm having way more fun than when I try to do imaginative stuff in a more realistic style. And I'm getting stuff done quicker. Not because cartooning, you know, doing a cartoony style is necessarily easier, but it's easier to do it in an imagination, do it with a lot of imaginative type of things, because it's based on abstract things. It's more abstract, I should say. So you have like more freedom. I still got to really get good with proportion and keeping things consistent and stuff like that. But you can break a lot of rules that you can't when you're like trying to get good, correct anatomy and stuff. And it helps me to be less stiff. I don't know. I also would like to do some more realistic stuff at some point, but I feel like I'm going to be working in a more cartoony style mostly. And then another pro is that you can go towards realism still. You don't have to stick with just straight up, realism. When you're in realism and you go towards cartoony a little bit, I think it doesn't look like, it's hard to go that way without it looking a little weird. That was one thing I didn't love about McFarlane, is his faces a lot of times were cartoony, and now I'm realizing that they kind of are reflections of like Will Eisner and stuff. So I don't know, but I think now maybe I appreciate his faces more than I used to. I thought they were good, they were well done, but I don't know why, but for some reason it bothered me, his faces. But I feel like with cartoony, like, I feel like I can go into detail a little bit and then come back out, you know? I don't know. It's interesting. But it's a lot less lines, so it's quicker. You know, once you figure out your shape language for whatever it is you're drawing, and you can build off of that. That being said, you have to know when to not put lines, you know, and that's kind of a hard part. And so I don't know, there's difficulties on both sides, but I feel like I'm having way more fun doing a cartoony style, and I feel like I might do cartoony but then add pieces of realism, pieces of detail that aren't always there. And I think of people like Jake Parker, Bill Watterson, Sergio Aragonés, in that he does a lot, like all his comics are like full of crowd scenes. Like, you know, if there's anybody who doesn't shy away from crowd scenes, it's him, you know, and like just crazy details. But then he has lots of simple panels too, but he draws super quick. I want to draw quick like him, you know, maybe not as quick as him, but because, you know, he definitely kind of can go in the same face mode, and, you know, body shapes. Some of the stuff kind of looks similar and blah, 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 but I love it. I think it's cool. Also it's interesting. You can do like some cool contrast if you're working cartoony, you know. I love how in the old 20s and 30s animations, you know, and even beyond that, you know, the Disney ones, especially like Sleeping Beauty and stuff, you know, where the details are in the background are really beautiful, and it's like this painted background, or just a lot of detail or whatever, and then the cartoons are in front, you know, with the cell shading and the cell animation and stuff. And so there's simple stuff with detailed backgrounds. I think it's interesting. I like that effect, and it makes a really cool contrast. And so yeah, I don't know. The biggest reasons are I'm having fun, and it's quicker, and I have a lot of ideas, and if I want to get a lot of ideas out, I can't be trying to do crazy detailed stuff all the time too. And, you know, also, like, even though I'm saying I'm trying to stay away from cartoony, or I have before in the past, all my comics still are pretty much cartoony. So why fight it? You know, I'm just like fighting something, and if I'm going to actually enjoy it better and be faster with it, why not be like, okay, I'm doing cartoony and push it for all it's worth? Like, I feel like some of my past comics, because I didn't want to do so much cartoony, I didn't push it because I didn't want it to be super cartoony, you know. But now, if I'm going in a cartoony direction, I'm going to push it like crazy, and, you know, yeah, just go nuts with it and have a blast, and we'll see how that goes. So, I don't know, just some thoughts on the matter, and hopefully you dig it, hopefully you understand what I'm talking about. And, yeah, I gotta get back to work, because, you know, the bills, yo. Alright, thanks for watching. You guys rock. I'll talk to you on the next episode. Peace out.